Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Fiona and I'm a full-time artist. I specialize in bright, bold, colorful abstracts, whether that's through painting, ceramic, or public art. And on my channel here, I take you with me on my artistic journey. So we work on projects here in my studio, we go out to see art exhibits, I buy art supplies and share my hauls with you. So basically any kind of art related content. If that sounds like something you're into, please do like and subscribe. It's one free click for you. It makes a big difference for my channel and I would really appreciate it. Okay friends, I am here to say that I have officially finished my sketchbook. Yay! So today is October 4th. Sketchbook Club sketchbooks are due and mine has been officially turned in. This is very exciting for me. If you were following along, I joined the Sketchbook Club back in May and I kind of went from this anxious, don't know what to do place all the way through up until I started to hit a stride, a theme emerged. So it's just been a lot of fun and it helped me get out of this comfort zone of just working in like large format paintings and avoiding sketchbooks. So the aspect of play in sketchbooks was something I was definitely missing in my life. And I hope as a result of doing this project, I will start using a sketchbook more. I tend to use it for travel, but I could be doing this as a part of my art practice. Anyway, I'm gonna get into it more. I'm gonna take you through the pages. I'll show you some of the materials I used, my thought processes, and just have a fun little sketchbook tour. So, you know, grab a tea or a water. You can grab your own sketchbook and work alongside while I talk about this. And yeah, we're just gonna have a casual little sketchbook tour. So let's get into it. All right, friends, we're gonna get started here. I've been using these clips, just regular old bull clips, to secure the sketchbook. Just, you know, because once it started getting full of work, it started opening on its own. But it seems to be okay and closed now. This is the cover. As I said, a theme emerged, which was in bloom. If you follow my work, blooms have been a large part of my work most recently. I've done quite a few murals under the title Super Bloom, and a lot of my paintings are around this bloom motif. And so I just found that that started emerging in the work naturally. This for the back cover, I ended up just doing paint with some gold dots. I thought it was cute. I had something collaged on here, but even when I was handling it, it kind of kept raising up. And this is going in a library at the Princeton Arts Council Center. And I know these get handled a lot, so I didn't want to have that happen. So I took the collage off and painted over it. But anyway, let's open it up and take a look. All right, so on this first page, I have my name, website, and Instagram, as well as catalog number, which is 129. That just means I'm the 129th sketchbook in the Sketchbook Club library. Under notes, I have in bloom, which is what my theme emerged as, and I have the date started and the date finished. So I did finish a little bit ahead of time, which I am proud of. So for this first page, I had done the mark making originally, and that's just how I left it. When I'm starting a new sketchbook, I always find the first page to be the most intimidating. So I find just doing my mark making across it gets the nerves out. So that's what I went ahead and did here. And then as I continued into the sketchbook, I saw other people doing collage elements in theirs, and I recalled that I had many of these shapes as cutouts. I had done a 50-day project. I believe this was in 2021, where in January I had originally wanted to do a 100-day project of sort of these cutouts once a day for 100 days. I got up to day 50 and I thought that would suffice. I had so many of these, I didn't know what to do with them, and I've just held on to them for the longest time. But then I thought this would work really well in the sketchbook. And this green on green moment I just thought was impactful and a good way to start the in bloom idea sort of this flower shape, green symbolizing growth. I used a Posca marker for the background, and then this is watercolor, I believe. So let me show you what those look like. So this is a Posca marker, and this was a color that I used. I call it teal, but I guess the name is aqua green, and I used it in the 1.3 millimeter nib. So that's what this looks like. That's what I used to do those initial marks. And then this was from quite some time ago, but looking at it, I believe it's my watercolors. So it's a Winsor Newton set. So this green color is what I used to create that. And then I think I just went around the border with a darker green paint, but it was this Winsor Newton set. Actually, maybe not that green, it was this green. Moving on, this is the next page, quite a colorful spread. When I initially did it, I was just trying to think what's something I can do across 2 pages, and sort of this radiating bloom motif came in mind. So I created a bloom on one side and had it radiate across. This got layered over a few times. So I think when I initially did it, I had some smaller mark making, which you can see in the background here. And it's definitely a combination of Posca marker, similar to the one I just showed you, some acrylic gouache here, and just a combination of materials. I think there's acrylic gouache and then probably regular acrylic. So it's worth mentioning that you can go back and actually see my process for this, because I did 2 videos primarily where you can see my work on the sketchbook. And in general, these acrylic gouaches from Liquitex, I have a bunch of them here. I use them a ton in this sketchbook. So it's primarily the acrylic gouache alongside Posca markers. All right, moving forward. I remember doing these 2 when I was sitting in bed one evening, and I remember working in the black and white and being like, maybe I'll do the whole sketchbook in black and white. I was only my, 3rd spread in, and I was thinking very hard about what kind of theme do I want to do? Is there something I want to carry throughout? And immediately after thinking and saying that, I went and did this in navy blue. I remember thinking at the time, like, ooh, there's something graphic that I really enjoy about this. And it's not something I would typically do. So I feel like when this spread happened, or this page, that's when I went, okay, play is starting to open up a bit here. And I remember after doing the black, it bled through to this, and that's why I ended up going over this page again. But I was learning as I was going through it, and I think that's something important with sketchbooks is to not restrict yourself early on. I think a lot of the time with sketchbook tours, you look at these beautifully well done sketchbooks and you think you have to have something very presentable. And I know I was feeling the pressure of it, not necessarily for a sketchbook tour, but for having it in the sketchbook library. But letting yourself play and seeing where the work takes you is pretty exciting, and anything can be painted over. So I think that this is where I kind of started to feel a shift. So these next 2 pages, I did the mark making first. As I had mentioned that I'd done with the first page, I had done the mark making. So I did 2 pages of mark making. I had done this while sitting in Sketchbook Club one evening. They had some Faber-Castell pens, and I had been using them. And once again, being in public around other people, I go back to my comfort zone, knowing, okay, I could just fill the page with the marks and take it from there. And then these pieces got collaged on later. So these are all definitely done with Posca marker, and this is definitely Faber-Castell. Let me see if I can find those. So although it was the Princeton Arts Council that put out a nice big set of these and I jumped to them, I do have a set myself. So this is what they look like. Just a brush pen, and I had it in the pink and yellow here. That's that's well used. But anyway, and then, yeah, I just collaged these pieces on top because I really started to look at, if these are blooms, then this is my field. And so maybe this is like a field in sunrise, so you're getting that golden hue over it, versus maybe during sunset and you're getting those pinks. Or it could be sort of water lilies on water and you're getting that reflection of sunrise and sunset. So that's how I looked at the backgrounds, and then just having these bloom shapes floating on top of that. So when I was in the Sketchbook Club meeting, I had done these two just for that comfort zone. I believe that's what happened. Once again, you can go back in the videos and see and correct me if I'm wrong. And then I remember doing these as well. So this was sort of a thought based on expanding the idea of this, where I started with, you know, a top shape and then sort of started building around it. So sort of expanding on that idea of, okay, I started in one corner and then this could go behind it and then that could go behind that, and sort of layering and just playing with it compositionally and it not having to make complete sense, but just playing with the patterns and seeing what fits in where, and trying different sorts of patterns for myself. So sort of like, instead of doing the straight lines here, doing the squiggly lines, playing with different pens and markers. So this was really a lot of fun for me to do. And then on this page, it's if you were to take the petals and explode them, what that would look like. And yeah, I just started by doing each layer with watercolor, and then I did Posca marker on top of that. This next page I think is pretty striking, not only because it's black and white and I don't typically work in black and white anymore, but this was the page that I had the idea to start combining the collage. And I had initially thought, oh, I have a couple of these shapes, and I thought it would just be for this spread. But then once I did it for this one, I went, wait, I have ones in color and I could do more of it. So this is obviously a micron pen or a fine liner pen in the background, and that's a Posca pen. And then these were existing blooms I had. And then I created some black ones like this, so it would help this one pop. This one has a thicker border, so I thought that can kind of stand alone. This one kind of sits nicely into the background, and then to get this one to pop on top, I made a black shape to put behind it. And then on this side, I made these while sitting, like these specific shapes, these ones, I made while sitting in the Sketchbook Club meeting. And I remember one of the other members coming over and being like, okay, this is really cool. And I felt like, all right, I'm onto something. And then this was a pre-existing one that I thought fit well onto this page. So this was the first page where the collage idea really started coming through, and now you'll see that continue throughout the book as well. Of course, you're getting some like bleed over from other pages as I did it, bleed through from the background here. I wasn't too precious with the sketchbook in that way. I kind of let the paint go over if it wanted to, but I did like try and paint some of the backgrounds to help prevent bleed through going forward. And even on some of the pages, I did like, I primed it with a white background first. So this one, I had done these drawings first and then added the blue background in later, and then collaged these on top because it was feeling very bottom heavy and this kind of sat nicely in there. I probably would have maybe picked blooms with more variety of colors like this, but I felt like the shapes fit well, so I was like, we'll just go with it. So I did this while I was traveling, and I remember I had to go pick up some micron pens to finish it because I had ran out in my travel kit. So I have a video about that, and I'll link it below for my travel art supplies if you're specifically interested in that. But this was the spread that I was working on where I was like, I I think I ran out of this green and I specifically had to go pick that up. So that became a bit of an adventure. But anyway, yeah, this is primarily done with Faber-Castell brush pens and micron pens. And then this is that acrylic gouache in a blue in the background. And you can see once again, I'm having texture. I'm not trying to make it perfect. It's just having a bit of that play in there. When I tend to paint in my larger paintings, I would make sure that this is all smooth, that goes all the way to the edge, like would try and make it seamless. So it was fun to just kind of make it more sketchy in a sense. So this next 2 pages, once again, expansive blooms. So this is one where the petals are coming out a little bit more prominently. It's like a little bit more like a chrysanthemum, I want to say. And this one's a little bit more graphic, like my typical bloom shape. But I knew that I wanted to try something, once again, expanding the petals. I feel like when I go from a page like this where you can see them, you can see the stems, the leaves, I like to do something more blown up and abstracted. So you can see that some of the pages do kind of stick together. I might have to spray it with some sort of fixative. But anyway, so this was the first page that I felt like, you know what, maybe I can scan these after and do like a postcard set or a print set. And that is something I've done. I have scanned all the pages and I will be printing a few of them for a part of my holiday shop. So if it's something you're interested in, definitely stay tuned. Subscribe to my newsletter. That's the best way of knowing about that, or follow me on Instagram. But anyway, this was sort of the first one where I was like, yeah, this is really graphic. This could be fun in print form. And what I would have to do is once it's scanned, I can go in and clean it up a little bit. But I felt like, okay, there's something here that could be interesting for my shop specifically. And I won't lie to you, I kept that in mind going forward, but I didn't let it hold me back from playing. But if I was working on something and I felt like it could take me in a direction that would work well for being scanned, I definitely did have that in the back of my mind. So once again, acrylic gouache and Posca marker, and really being a maximalist with my pages. I wanted to play with the pattern in different scales and playing with that paint texture and going from a page that's just separated to something across. That seems to be something that I kept playing with as well. So something that goes across, 2 individuals, something that goes across. So I don't think it was intentional, but it's kind of where things went and I just followed that instinct. So these are 2 different spreads, like a 1-on-1, but it does feel like continuous in a way. Like it feels like this is sitting in front of these and then maybe these are behind on a hill. But this sort of feeling was reminding me of a mural that I did in Bloomfield last winter. And I had that in mind when I was working on this. Like I was like, oh yeah, I remember I had like little blooms popping up and I did different style flowers. And then sort of my main bloom shape here being more prominent. And I just love how graphic this is. And I know that I'm known for color, but sometimes it just feels so good to do something in black and white and just have that really graphic, bold moment. And it helps give a break in the sketchbook, even though, as I said, I'm obviously a maximalist, but it's a nice moment. And I was like, man, these would look really neat as postcards. So even if I make them, it's just for me, I would be happy to have them. So, because, you know, I'm giving this sketchbook to the Sketchbook Club at the end of the day, so I'm not going to have this after. So if I can scan it and make postcards, and if nobody wants them, but I have it, I'll be happy with that. So this is another spread where I definitely primed it with a white and then went on top with another acrylic. This is like where like you can feel that the paper, since it is very thin sketchbook paper, really started to sort of buckle under the media. Like it feels cold to the touch, you know, like the page didn't wasn't able to take that much weight, but it did okay. You know, I cleaned it up as best as I could, and I think it looks pretty neat. I love this sort of peachy and teal combination, but this is what you're probably used to seeing from me. So this is my super bloom motif, and I've done it in several murals, I've done it in several paintings, and I wanted it to be represented in the sketchbook as well. This spread, oh my goodness. So this is not a new concept. I see many artists doing still lives of a vase with blooms. This has been done for many years. This is something I'm seeing done as a trend as well on Instagram and YouTube. But with that said, I personally am a ceramicist as well, and I love the idea of having a painting maybe or a drawing of a vase with flowers and then one of my actual ceramics in front of it, so it's almost like it comes to life. I don't know. It's something I'm still playing with the idea of, but this was sort of a good start to it. And I think what I want to say is, if you have something in your mind and you're holding back because you've seen other people do it, I would say go ahead and give it a shot, because each of us have our own unique gifts, we have our own perspective, and we'll put our own mark on it. So while other people have done the idea of a vase that's a still life with flowers, this is my take on it. And I do think that there's something valid and beautiful and unique in that. So I would encourage you to explore something, even if you've seen it done elsewhere. So I love these metallic blooms. This was once again a part of that 50-day project, and I had done metallic paint on black paper, which is very not what I do. But once again, in the aspect of play, I had tried that out. I mean, this copper metallic on top of the black just looks so cool, and I love it in this sketchbook setting. And I knew I wanted to like give the metallics their moment, and you'll see more metallics in the sketchbook. But this is sort of the motif that I had showed, that's the back of the sketchbook in the inside here. So you have your two flowers sort of at night, and you have your fireflies around it. Just a very summer moment. I believe I'd done this in July, August, so was really feeling the summer vibes in this one, I would say. Now, this one was interesting. I had this sort of weird shaped cutout, which was a part, once again, of the 50-day one, but it's really a step away from all the bloom shapes I was making. I don't know why. I was like, I'm just going to try a different shape altogether and make it straight edges. And when I put it in here, I was thinking of it as like almost like a barn house. And then I was like, maybe this is just like a bloom or a sun rising behind it. But then I ended up putting one over here and having it kind of combined. So I don't know why. It might just be the shape of this that I was like thinking farmhouse, but I just kind of went with it. It's an abstract, and I personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this page. This page, I could take it or leave it. It felt like a little bit of a mishmash in the end, but this page I really love. The way the yellow helps that teal pop, and then you have, it looks like it's all one piece, but this is a cutout and it's on top of that teal. And like, I always like a green on green moment. I've done this in my ceramics, and I'll do like a sage with a warm green with a teal, and there's something to it I really like. Even with black liner on top, like it really reminds me of this bowl I made. One of you out there has it, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this page feels successful. This one, not so much. I feel like maybe I should have done something more in here, but I'm not gonna press it. The other thing I noticed is this kind of sticks out like a tab. So it's kind of like a moment for people to open it. And I'd considered trimming it, but then I would lose that pink border. And then if I were to redraw it, then it would feel different from the rest of the borders. So I don't know. I just left it. I think it's okay. All right, so we have another metallic bloom moment. And I just thought in this field, having one here and having sort of that asymmetry could be very interesting, because the rest of the sketchbook has been very like, if there's action on one page, there's action on the other. And so for this moment, I was like, let's just have the weight of that on the one side. And of course, having a red on a green just pops on its own. The fact that this is black paper on white paper, I just thought this shape fits so perfectly on this page. I mean, to think that I did this over 3 years ago, and it's like I held on to it for all this time and it just fits so perfectly here. I was like, this is the moment. This is what needs to happen. But it is a good thing in composition, because just because, like I said, you have something happening on one side, you don't always have to have it on the other side. You can let that balance be different sometimes. This is probably my least favorite spread of the entire sketchbook. I don't know why. I think I had an idea in my head of like this large leaf motif and then these flowers growing out of it. But I don't know. It just didn't come together the way that I wanted. I think it doesn't have as much graphic nature to it as the other pages, and it does feel more sketchy in just the way I did it. I did black on top of these two, and I think they're too dark for that. And then this background, I wanted to do my dots, my circles, like I wanted to have this sort of moment to help it pop forward. And I remember I went to start doing it and I kind of got messy, and then I went, you know what? Let's do that across the whole thing. Let's try it out. And then I did it and I kind of looked at it and was like, yeah, I don't know about that. And then I thought I would go in later and fix it up to be more, well, I just flipped to another page, but more like this. Like, I thought I would do that and then that would kind of speak to it. But I think having this sketchy action of it, I thought, you know what? Let's just let it be. Not every page has to be perfection. Not everything has to be the original vision. And although it's not my favorite spread, like I said, like I think there could be more interest here. This could be cleaned up better. I could have painted over this and done more on top of it. I think it's okay. I think it can exist the way it does, and that's all right. And I scanned these pages as well, so who knows, maybe in the digital version I'll give it a bit of a cleanup. Well, another sticky page. See, this is where I'm like, I think I need fixative. Oh, because we're getting a tear here, guys. This is good to show because this has happened on a few of the pages where I have had acrylic. So see, I think I might have to go in and clean this up a little bit, or get some fixative. I need to get some fixative on here and I'll glue this down. But this was kind of a fun moment to do something on black, because the rest of the pages, if I had color for a background, it was something that really popped. And I was like, let's do a black background and then do metallic on top of it. And like I said, I don't typically use metallic in my works and my paintings, but it's so fun to do in the sketchbook. And it's really got me thinking, if I were to go back to works on paper, maybe there's a moment for metallics in my larger final work. It's got the wheels it's got the wheels thinking, it's got the wheels turning. And I think that's what a sketchbook is meant to do. As an artist that does this full time, just having that play. I can't emphasize it enough, that experimentation, it just leads you down that different path. And yeah, this was one of those. This was a fun one too, to just do something small and then have the leaves sort of layered and coming out, because when I normally add a leaf pattern to a bloom, it's usually like 3 on one side. So this one I was like, we're gonna put it all the way around. So once again, something I wouldn't typically do, and now I'm like, this could be something I expand on. Like, I don't think these are necessarily the final answers, but they're definitely a good jumping off point for something to explore more. But once again, leaving it rough in terms of the paint in the background and sort of having a border on it as well. Just not what I typically do, but just having fun with that. Again, I just felt like these fit so perfectly. I love this blue and the red. That combination just felt really good together. And then when I was looking for something to complement it, I was like, something with a bit more layers here could be interesting. And having that textured background, you don't know how hard I had to prevent myself from going and filling this in. But I was like, let it be textured. Let that be the interest in what the background is. You don't have to fill it with a pattern. That can be the mark making in the background. It's not something I physically have to do. Now, no collage on these two, but these are both based on a previous work of mine. I'd done a rose and cut it out, and that piece had sold. And then I'd done one that was flat. And I've done a few in this, and at the time I called it like a starburst series, but it really comes back to the blooms and sort of looking at it from overhead and if it were to continue to expand. So once again, something I'd done, I think the first one like this, I'd done it back in 2019, and just coming back to that language, returning to things that I thought worked for me, and having this vocabulary that still lives in my mind and my memories reemerge in this sketchbook, because it's not something I've done recently, and to just have it reemerge here, I think is a really beautiful thing. And I think it revalidates what I have done with my art career, in a sense, when I feel like I can return to old things and not feel like that is a waste in any way. And if anything, it's a good feeling. So sometimes you can go back to older things. So this lavender spread is probably one of my favorite pages, and maybe because it's brand new, but I'd done my mark making in the background. I thought, well, these are kind of giving lavender. So let's look up what lavender looks like. And this was sort of my take on it. Now, the paper was leftover color aid paper I had from my 100-day project I did back in 2019, and I still have some sheets left. So I found 2 purples, and I just created this bloom motif. I cut it to shape. You can see it is getting a little bit crinkled in the crease there. No big deal. But I just thought it was so sweet in a way. I really love the scent of lavender, and almost looking at it, it's like I can smell the lavender. As someone that has chronic migraine, lavender is something I use a lot to soothe me, whether it's like in one of those heat pads, you heat it up and it kind of smells like lavender and you put it on your neck, or if it's like an essential oil in a diffuser, just I can really smell the lavender on it, and there's something soothing about it. And once again, just my take on it, and that sort of graphic feeling where you have all this busyness, but then you have a moment where you get that separation from the background and just solids. Like, I know I could fill this in with mark making, dots, other things, and maybe that's something I expand on later, but I just thought it's something really sweet, and it just makes me very happy to look at. So there's something here, and I really enjoy this spread as something new that came out of the sketchbook. So I had a couple of these larger cutout shapes, and I remember being like, oh, it doesn't fit on the page, so I can't use it. But this was the moment where I was like, what would happen if I have it go across? Now, I know it's going to deteriorate over time as, the pages fold, but there is something cool about it where it's like, day to night, and you're getting the bloom as the transition piece, the thing that connects it all together. I don't know. There was something I liked about that. In the other spreads, it was always this connected, whereas on this one, this is where the collage starts connecting. So you're going to see this more if we continue. So here's another one. And this one, I'm not going to lie, this one is really giving me Yayoi Kusama. It could be the yellow on the maroon with the dots, but I remember I had done the yellow and done the red here, but there was still bleed through. You can even see it a bit in the yellow here coming through from the next spread. So then I went over it with the yellow, and then I thought, well, I'll do the reverse on this and go over it with a maroon. So that's what I did. And once again, I found this larger bloom shape and I thought, you know what, it's really gonna pop on this. And while it doesn't make me comfortable, like it's not like the lavender page where it's like, this is relaxing and sweet. There's something very almost volatile and nuclear about this in a sense. Or electric maybe. There's something about it where it's a high energy one. And that green with that yellow and maroon is uncomfortable to me with the silver, but that's okay as well. It's once again, it doesn't all have to be pretty. It doesn't all have to make sense, but it was just something where I felt like playing with that shape, and this was kind of the moment in which that happened. Now, I specifically remember working on this spread while watching the Olympics. I worked on this sketchbook so much while the Olympics were on. I find the Olympics, the Paralympics to be so inspiring. And it really does bring out the delusion in those of us sitting on the couch, like sketching, like eating popcorn and being like, stick the landing. Like, what do I know? But I just felt like, wow, this is so inspiring. And if you watch it live, there's a lot of downtime in between setting up between the events. So I would do sort of this like harder core detail small stuff, and then I would watch and I would go back to doing it. And you know, it was on for a good few weeks, so I feel like I got a lot done in the sketchbook as a result of that. Let me know in the comments if you watched the Olympics, but I found it to be very inspiring and motivational for me, and it gave me a good thing to sort of have on in the background. Then I would look up when the event is happening, then go back to working on this and just listening to that commentary. But yeah, there's something about this too that has like, I don't know, like maybe a 70s vibe to it. And I start doing, like, I haven't done this in my work either. Like this sort of layering, this dense layering. There's something here, once again, like, and I'd done it earlier in the sketchbook, but in the black and white, like it's just having a repeat, like if you were to stamp that and having these different marks. I don't know. There's something here, folks. There's something here. Here we go. Another sticky page. We really need to get the fixative on here before I hand in this sketchbook. Look at that. Oh my God, Fiona. Anyway, I know when these go into the sketchbook library, they're going to be handled, so I want to make sure that I do a good job fixing this. Anyway, I had considered putting more in the background, and you see there's some bleed through happening here. I wanted to cover that up, but I don't know. It's just sweet. They're speaking to each other. Big sister, little sister, like a little sibling moment. I don't know. I make up these narratives in my head for the work as I'm doing it. And like I said, it doesn't have to make sense, but that's part of the play for me. But having that plain background here, that took some restraint on my part. I'm, as I said, I'm very much a maximalist. If there's a blank space, I want to fill it. So it takes restraint for me to just leave it and let the moment be the moment. I had this cutout. So the cutout went on first, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to do the lavender behind it. I don't think this is as successful as the other page. There's something more successful about the other page, but I'm glad I tried it again and kind of played with it. You can see the page is starting to like pill from all the wet ink on here. So I think if I do a future sketchbook, I'm going to get a mixed media one. Obviously, once again, this is from the Sketchbook Club. The sketchbook that they give you is a sketchbook they give you. I don't have control over that, but I am motivated to keep working on a sketchbook. So I think I'm going to get a mixed media one and then get a little bit heavier with the materials. So I really, this imagery here of having a singular tulip with the bloom expanding behind it, that was an idea I had in my head. So this is how I executed it. I do think it could be better. It could be better, but I'm glad I was able to get the idea out on the page, and I think it's something I can play with later. And once again, leaving the moment in the middle blank and letting the pattern be outside of that That's very different for me, but I like it. There's a start here. That's what I'll say. And then this is a larger leaf, and I think this was more successful than my other larger leaves. That gold on that teal is just so chef's kiss. And I think this is when I did this, I was like, oh, this is the color combo that's going on the back, because I just love it. So as I had mentioned, I'm going to scan these and make them into postcards. Not all of the spreads, some of them. And I was like, this is going into the holiday shop, so I do need to have a little holiday moment. So that's kind of where the color scheme came out in this one. I had glued these on first, the metallic shapes, and I thought, why don't we do red and green? Let's just do it. So that was the idea for the color scheme here, and that's how that came about. So this one was interesting because I had done the black and white pages, but not on a solid color. So I thought, okay, before this sketchbook wraps up, because I only have a few pages left, I want to try this idea of kind of retackling this page. Like if I were to go back to this and do it now, 2 months later, this is sort of an evolution of that. So you can see some of the same shapes and the same approach to it. This was inspired by a mural I did in my house. So I had done a monthly mural project where I'd done a new mural on the wall, and I was supposed to do it for the entire year, but I ended out leaving that house 9 months in, so I didn't quite finish the year, but this was the idea for that. So I actually did this while sitting in front of that mural. I was at the house working on getting it listed and getting packed up, and I sat down to sketch, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna copy that in front of me, because it is a bloom, and then you have a lot of other shapes happening around it that are kind of fun. I did go in with a colored pencil here and try and do some mark making, but it wasn't successful. Then I tried a micron pen, that wasn't successful, and then I went, there's a lot of ink on this page, and between these two, the pages are getting quite heavy, so we're just gonna leave it. We're gonna let it be its own thing. Here's another expansive bloom. What's funny about this page is I was doing this blue and I ran out, and instead of being like, oh, I'm gonna go get another one so I continue it, I went, you know what, just pick a different color, and just went for it. So that's very unlike me to do that. I would go out of my way usually, but I went, don't stop the momentum. Just grab whatever it is you have on hand and just go for it. So proud of myself for that. I don't think it looks the best, but that doesn't matter. It's the idea of continuing momentum, and that's what I did here. And then some finer line work in the back to help bring the bloom with the larger shapes forward. I also love this bloom with the big shapes. It's very, very cool. So here's the last 2 pages before we get to the very back, but the last spread. So once again, an expansive bloom with a green on green. Like I said, I'm a big fan of like a teal or a sage with a deeper green. And then just like a fun action one. Like there's something about the large mark making without filling in with the smaller ones. It just feels like there's a lot of action. Like it feels like there's a lot of movement in this one, a lot of excitement. And it could be the brushwork on this as well, but I very much enjoyed that. And then for the last spread here, I had a bunch of swatches on this page, and I thought, leave your swatches, just leave them on there. And then I just put a bloom on top of it. I had a little bit of bleed through here, or I kind of got that paint over here. I was like, just leave it. This is your swatch page. So this is sort of a collection of all, I even wrote swatches, a sort of a collection of all the different materials and colors that I used throughout the sketchbook, and having that little library seemed fun. And then I had another bloom here cut out left over, and I thought nothing, the 2 greens happening. There wasn't too much thought that went into it. I just thought instead of leaving that blank, it'd be nice to have something. So that's what I put there. But yeah, that is my sketchbook tour. I would love to hear your thoughts, opinions, favorite, least favorite, Do you have a sketchbook going on currently yourself? Do you look at it as a theme, a complete thing? Or do you just do one-off pages like how when I started this? But I appreciate you being here, taking the time to go through it with me. And yeah, stay tuned if you're interested in a postcard set using some of these. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on what spreads you think could work for that. But we're gonna sign off on this page. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Till then, stay well and stay inspired, my friends. Bye.